Hello everyone. Today we will be continuing our discussion of financial math with an overview of simple interest. Now, simple interest is one of two different kinds of interest that we'll be talking about over the next couple videos. The other one being compound interest. And in general, interest is basically just the cost of borrowing money. So the idea behind interest is you borrow X amount of dollars, and what you pay back is more than the amount that you borrowed. So the general formula that we use that's true for any type of interest, either simple or compound, is this one right here at the top, F equals P plus I. So in this case, P is what we call the principal, and the principal is basically just the original amount of money that is borrowed. I is the interest that we are paying on that money, and F is our final amount, basically. So how much are you paying back at the end? Note that interest can sort of go both ways, in the sense that it could be that you're the one borrowing money and you are paying back interest on the money that you borrowed, or it could be that you are earning interest on something from money that was essentially borrowed from you. So simple interest, the key feature of this is that you are only paying interest on the principal. This is different from compound interest, where you're paying interest on the principal plus all previously earned interest. So the effect of this is that simple interest, the amount of interest that you're paying is going to be constant per unit of time, basically, for the entire duration of the loan. Now, when we have money that we are borrowing with interest, there's a couple different ways that this can be paid back. One of these is a single payment, which is basically where we just pay back the full amount, including the interest at the end. This is what we'll see most often for simple interest, because the interest stays basically the same over time, because it's based only on the principal, not previously earned interest. With compound interest, we'll more commonly see what we call installment loans, which is basically where you are paying back the money over time in a set of installments. So when we are calculating simple interest, we use this simple formula right here, or simplest interest formula right here, I equals PRT. So I is the interest that we're paying or earning. P is the principal, the initial or original amount that was borrowed. R is our interest rate, and T is the term, which is basically just the length of time that the money is borrowed for. Now, the interest rate is most commonly expressed in what we call the APR. And the APR is basically just what percentage of your principal are you paying in interest every year. So APR stands for annual percentage rate. So when we are dealing with this, it's always going to be for terms expressed in number of years, basically, when we're dealing with APRs. So let's look at a couple of examples of simple interest. These examples will address two of the most common scenarios that we'll see simple interest, one of which is bonds, and the other of which is payday loans, also known as cash advances. So bonds are basically, you can purchase these from either government entities or corporations, so forth and so on. And the idea is that you purchase this bond, and then after the term of the bond expires, you get that money back with simple interest based on whatever APR you got for that bond. So for this problem, we are asked to calculate the face value, which basically just means the final value of the bond, for a 3-year bond with a principal of $3,500 and a 2.25% APR. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to calculate the interest earned on this bond. So we're going to use our simple interest formula, I equals PRT. So I equals PRT. Our principal, we said, is $3,500. R, this is our APR expressed as a decimal. So in this case, we have a 2.25% APR. So if we were to express this as a decimal, we would write this as 0.0225. If you want an overview of how we do that, the last video has an explanation of that. And then finally, T, our term, is 3 years. So this is going to be 3. So what we get from this is that our total interest earned is going to be $236.25. So now that we've determined how much interest we've earned, the next step is just to figure out what's the face value of the bond, and for that we're just going to use this F equals P plus I. So basically what this is just saying is that what we get back at the end is our principal plus all of the interest that we've earned. So this is going to be our original $3,500 plus the $236.25 that we earned in interest. So this is going to work out to be $37.36.25. So this is going to be the face value of our bond. This is the final amount that we get back at the end. All right. The next problem, we are dealing with a payday loan. Payday loans, also known as cash advances. These are basically short-term loans, usually for relatively small amounts of money that charge simple interest. So this example will illustrate one of the big problems with payday loans, which is that interest rates expressed in terms of APRs at least tend to be quite high oftentimes. So we have a 14-day payday loan in this case, and we are charged $10 of interest per $100 borrowed, and we want to determine the APR. So in this case, we're going to look back at our simple interest formula, I equals PRT. But in this case, it's actually the APR that we're looking for, so this would be R in this case. So R is going to be our APR expressed as a decimal. So in this case, we are given I, P, and T, and we want to find R. So I, in this case, that's the interest that's being charged. So that's $10 per 100 borrowed. So what we can say is that's $10 of interest if we have a principal of 100. Times R, and then T. In this case, if we wanted to find the APR, we want T in number of years. So 14 days, that's 14 days out of 365 in a year, so our term would actually be 14 over 365. So this is basically if you think about this, this is the fraction of a year that our term is for. So if we rearrange this to solve for R, then we get R is 10 over 100 times 14 over 365 down here in the bottom. And what this works out to be is $2.607. So remember that this is the APR expressed as a decimal. So if we wanted to convert this to a percentage, we need to move the decimal point over 2 places to the right. So this would be a 260.7% APR. This is a very high APR. Now, again, this is just an example, but this illustrates a major problem that often occurs with payday loans, which is that the interest rates are quite high. So $10 for $100 borrowed may not sound like a whole lot, but when you consider that it's only for a 14-day loan, and that when you express that as an APR, it works out to a 260.7% APR, well, the reality is that you could probably get a better interest rate borrowing money from just about anywhere else. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'm happy to help with whatever questions you have.